Hey there, my friend. Grab a coffee, get comfy, and let's have a heart-to-heart. Today, I want to share something that's been a game changer for me and countless others. The Napoleon Hill way of speaking confidently to win big in life. You know, Napoleon Hill, the guy who wrote Think and Grow Rich, didn't just talk about money or success. He laid out a blueprint for transforming how we think, communicate, and show up in the world. And let me tell you, it's not about being the loudest in the room or having a fancy degree. It's about owning your voice, believing in your worth, and letting that confidence carry you to places you never thought possible. So let's dive into this together, like old friends catching up, and explore how you can speak confidently and win big, no matter where you're starting from. First off, let's talk about what confidence really means. You might think it's about having all the answers or never feeling nervous. But here's the truth. Confidence is about trusting yourself, even when you're a little scared. Napoleon Hill once said, "Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve." That's not just fluffy motivational talk, it's a mindset. When you speak with confidence, you're telling the world, "I believe in what I'm saying, and I believe in myself." And that's powerful. Think about someone like Oprah Winfrey. She grew up with nothing, poverty, tough circumstances, you name it. But when she started speaking, whether on her talk show or in interviews, she had this way of connecting with people. It wasn't because she was perfect. It was because she spoke with conviction. She believed in her message, and that made others believe in her too. Now you might be thinking, okay, that's great for Oprah, but I'm just a regular person. How do I get there? Well, let's break it down with some practical steps, inspired by Napoleon Hill's principles, that you can start using today. One of the first things Hill emphasized was the power of definite purpose. This means knowing what you want and being clear about it. When it comes to speaking confidently, your purpose might be to inspire your team at work, pitch an idea to your boss, or even just feel good about sharing your thoughts in a social setting. Let's say you're at a community event, and you want to share an idea about improving local parks. If you're clear on your purpose, to make the neighborhood better, you're already halfway to sounding confident. Why? Because you're not just talking for the sake of talking. You're driven by something meaningful. Let's take a real-world example. Back in 2010, a guy named Drew Houston, the founder of Dropbox, had to pitch his startup to investors. He was young, not super polished, but he had a clear purpose: to make file storage simple for everyone. When he spoke, he didn't try to sound like a Wall Street hotshot. He just explained his vision with clarity and passion. That confidence in his purpose landed him millions in funding, and today, Dropbox is a household name. The lesson? You don't need to be a natural-born speaker. You just need to know why you're speaking and let that guide you. Okay, so you've got your purpose. Now, how do you actually sound confident? This is where Napoleon Hill's idea of self-discipline comes in. Confidence isn't something you're born with, it's a muscle you build. One way to strengthen it is by preparing and practicing. Let's be real. Nobody walks into a big moment and nails it without some prep. Even the best speakers rehearse. Take TED Talks, for example. Those speakers make it look effortless, but behind the scenes, they're practicing for weeks, sometimes months. A 2013 study from the University of California found that people who rehearsed their presentations were rated as 30% more confident by audiences than those who winged it. So, if you've got a big meeting or even a family dinner where you want to share your thoughts, practice what you're going to say. Say it out loud in your car, in front of a mirror, or to your dog. The more you hear your own voice, the more natural it'll feel. Here's a little trick I love. Record yourself speaking. It sounds awkward at first, but it's a game changer. When you listen back, you'll notice things like, "Oh, I say I'm a lot," or "I sound more confident than I thought." This is something I learned from a friend who's a public speaking coach in New York. She works with middle-aged professionals, people like you and me, who want to level up their communication. She told me about a client, a 50-year-old accountant named Susan, who was terrified of presenting at work. Susan started recording her practice sessions, and over a few weeks, she went from sounding hesitant to owning the room during her company's quarterly meeting. By the time she was done, her boss was calling her the voice of the team. That's the power of practice. Now let's talk about something Napoleon Hill was big on: positive mental attitude. This is huge when it comes to speaking confidently. If you walk into a situation thinking, I'm going to mess this up, guess what? You probably will. But if you tell yourself, I've got something valuable to say, and I'm going to share it, you're setting yourself up for success. This isn't just feel-good advice, it's backed by science. A 2015 study from Harvard Business School showed that people who practiced positive self-talk before high-pressure situations, like public speaking, performed better and felt less anxiety. So before you speak, take a moment to hype yourself up. Tell yourself, I've got this. My voice matters. It's like giving yourself a mental high five. Let's look at someone who embodies this. Tony Robbins, the life coach and motivational speaker. Tony's got this larger-than-life energy, but he wasn't always that way. Early in his career, he was a young guy with big dreams and a lot of self-doubt. What changed? He started using positive self-talk and visualization, techniques straight out of Napoleon Hill's playbook. Before every seminar, Tony would visualize himself connecting with the audience, delivering value, and leaving them inspired. Today, he's speaking to thousands of people at a time, and it all started with believing in himself. You can do the same, whether you're speaking to one person or 100. Alright, let's get into the nitty-gritty of how you sound when you speak. Napoleon Hill talked a lot about personal magnetism, that spark that makes people listen to you. Part of this is your tone, your pace, and your body language. Here's a simple tip: slow down. When we're nervous, we tend to rush through our words like we're racing to the finish line. But confident people take their time. Think about someone like Morgan Freeman. That guy could read a grocery list, and you'd be hanging on every word. Why? Because his voice is calm, deliberate, and warm. You don't need to sound like Morgan Freeman, but you can practice speaking at a relaxed pace. Try this. Next time you're sharing an idea, pause for a second after your main points. It gives your words weight and makes people lean in. Body language is another big one. Napoleon Hill believed that how you carry yourself sends a message before you even open your mouth. A 2007 study from UCLA found that 55% of communication is nonverbal: your posture, eye contact, and gestures. So stand tall, shoulders back, and make eye contact. It's not about being stiff or formal, it's about showing you're present and engaged. I remember watching a talk by Amy Cuddy, the Harvard professor who studies body language. She shared how power posing, standing in a confident posture, like hands on hips, for just 2 minutes, can boost your confidence before a big moment. I tried it before a presentation once, and let me tell you, it works. You feel like a superhero, ready to take on the world. Now let's address the elephant in the room: fear. We've all felt it. That sweaty palm, heart-racing moment when you have to speak up. Napoleon Hill believed that fear is just a state of mind, and you can overcome it with the right habits. One way to tackle fear is by reframing it. Instead of thinking, I'm nervous, tell yourself, I'm excited. A 2014 study from the University of Rochester found that people who reframed anxiety as excitement performed better in high-pressure situations, like giving a speech. It's like flipping a switch in your brain. Next time you're about to speak, take a deep breath and say, I'm excited to share this. It's a small change that makes a big difference. Another way to conquer fear is by starting small. You don't have to give a TED Talk tomorrow. Begin with low-stakes situations, like sharing a story at a family gathering or speaking up in a meeting. I heard about a guy named Mark, a 45-year-old teacher from Chicago, who used to freeze up when speaking to parents at school events. He started by practicing in smaller settings, like chatting with 1 or 2 parents at a time. Over a year, he built enough confidence to deliver a keynote at his school's fundraiser. By the end, people were coming up to him saying, Mark, you're a natural. But it wasn't natural. It was hard work, inspired by the same principles Napoleon Hill taught. Let's talk about connecting with your audience, because that's where the win big part comes in. Napoleon Hill believed that success comes from building strong relationships, and speaking confidently is a huge part of that. When you speak, it's not just about what you say, it's about how you make people feel. One way to do this is by being authentic. People can smell inauthenticity a mile away. If you're trying to sound like someone you're not, it'll fall flat. Instead, lean into who you are. Share personal stories, even if they're not perfect. For example, when I first started making these videos, I was nervous about sharing my own struggles. But when I opened up about times I doubted myself, viewers connected with that. They'd comment, "Hey, I've been there too." That's when I realized authenticity is magnetic. Another way to connect is by listening. Yes, listening. Napoleon Hill talked about the importance of understanding others, and that starts with being a good listener. When you're in a conversation or presenting to a group, pay attention to their reactions. Are they nodding? Looking confused? Adjust your approach based on what you see. A friend of mine, a sales manager named Lisa, swears by this. She used to focus on delivering her pitch perfectly, but she'd lose her audience. Then she started watching their body language and tailoring her words to their needs. Now she closes deals left and right, all because she speaks with empathy and confidence. Let's not forget about the power of storytelling. Napoleon Hill was a master at using stories to make his points, and you can do the same. Stories stick with people. A 2016 study from Stanford University found that people are 22 times more likely to remember a message if it's told as a story rather than a list of facts. So, when you're speaking, weave in a story. Let's say you're trying to motivate your team at work. Instead of saying, "We need to hit our goals," share a story about a time you overcame a challenge. Maybe it's about how you landed your first big client, or how you bounced back from a setback. Stories make your message relatable and inspiring. Here's an example of storytelling in action. Look at someone like J.K. Rowling, the author of Harry Potter. When she gave her Harvard commencement address in 2008, she didn't just talk about success. She shared raw, honest stories about her struggles, being a single mom, living on welfare, and facing rejection after rejection. That vulnerability, paired with her confidence in her message, made her speech one of the most memorable commencement addresses ever. People didn't just hear her, they felt her. You can do that too, whether you're speaking to a big crowd or just one person. Now let's talk about winning big. For Napoleon Hill, winning big wasn't just about money or fame. It was about living a life of purpose and impact. When you speak confidently, you open doors to opportunities you never imagined. Maybe it's a promotion at work, a new business venture, or simply the respect of your peers. I think about someone like Simon Sinek, the guy who wrote Start With Why. His famous TED Talk in 2009 wasn't just about a cool idea. It was about delivering that idea with unshakable confidence. That talk has over 60 million views, and it launched his career as a global speaker. But here's the thing. Simon wasn't an overnight success. He spent years refining his message, practicing his delivery, and believing in his vision. That's the Napoleon Hill way, steady, focused effort that leads to big wins. So, how do you put all this into action? Let's wrap it up with a simple plan you can start today. First, pick one situation where you want to speak more confidently. Maybe it's a meeting at work, a toast at a friend's wedding, or even a conversation with your kids. Second, clarify your purpose. What do you want to achieve? Third, practice your message, even if it's just for 5 minutes. Record yourself, tweak your tone and slow down. Fourth, use positive self-talk before you speak. Tell yourself, "I'm excited and I've got this." And finally, be authentic. Share a story, make eye contact, and let your personality shine. Here's a quick story to send you off with. A few years ago, I met a woman named Karen at a community workshop. She was in her late 50s, recently divorced, and starting over in a new career. She was terrified of speaking up in her new job, afraid she'd sound too old or out of touch. But she started applying these principles, practicing her presentations, using positive self-talk, and sharing her experiences authentically. Within a year, she was leading training sessions for her company and getting rave reviews. She told me, "I never thought I could be this person, but now I feel like I'm winning at life." That's what speaking confidently can do. It transforms how you see yourself and how the world sees you. So my friend, as we wrap up this chat, I want you to remember one thing. Your voice is powerful. You don't need to be perfect, you don't need to be famous, and you don't need to have it all figured out. All you need is the courage to speak with confidence, inspired by the Napoleon Hill way. Start small, practice often, and believe in yourself. The wins, big and small, are waiting for you. Keep shining, keep speaking, and let's go out there and make things happen. I'm rooting for you.